What's up guys? So I've been wanting to talk about my thoughts on Paper Mario for a while now, and since it's somewhat relevant because of the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pass, I figured now would be a good a time as any to finally speak about my thoughts of this franchise. Now this video is probably going to come across pretty negative, so before I get to the point of this video, let me explain to you my thoughts of the most recent release of Paper Mario, which is the Origami King. And I had a handful of issues with this game, though I did appreciate the new battle system at first, which was the little puzzles that you had to solve to line up enemies in different ways that would increase the damage that you would do to said enemy. But honestly, I think that it got really old after probably around the second boss, and despite that, I thought that having a bunch of origami in the world was a nice little gimmick, and the animations for the folding and such were so gorgeous. But at the same time, it also did feel just like a better version of Color Splash. Now, don't get me wrong, there were quite a few flaws with Origami King, but I really enjoyed it for the most part. I thought that it was absolutely beautiful as well as really hilarious, and the characters were very endearing to me. Like when Bobby died, I was genuinely upset and in complete disbelief for that whole segment of the game. And another character that I was really fond of was Olivia. She was absolutely adorable even though she was slightly annoying at times. But despite all of the things that I liked about this game, I think that continuing down the road that they started on with Sticker Star is honestly a terrible decision despite the improvements, especially since the replayability of this game is abysmal at best. I mean look, if I had to give Origami King a definitive ranking, I personally think that it's probably a 6 or 7 out of 10, and even though I really enjoyed it, I will probably never touch it again, just like with Sticker Star and Color Splash, though I wouldn't give them that good of a ranking. But unlike with them, with Thousand Year Door and Paper Mario 64, I would constantly play them if I could, which given that Paper Mario 64 was my very first Mario game period, I'm extremely biased towards it, so I apologize if I'm nostalgia tripping way too much in this video. But this video has all of my reasons for why I think the franchise should go back to basics if it's going to survive any longer. And before that, I want to give Origami King credit where it's due. I think the whole world being connected is the absolute best function that they have added, as well as the beautiful pre-rendered cutscenes. I mean, just look at how gorgeous this water looks. So keeping those elements moving forward in this franchise is a given to me. Whether they continue to mess with the different paper-centric art mediums, or decide to go back and remaster/remake the two most beloved games in this franchise, but with everything else, specifically the gimmicks of the last 3 games, get rid of all of that. All of it. Because personally, I want the level scaling, I want the difficulty, and what I want back more than anything is the creativity and variety of the character designs. I don't understand why Nintendo made the decision to where NPCs can't be individually unique. All of the unique characters in Paper Mario 64 and Thousand Year Door are what made the franchise. Honestly though, Bo, Koopa, and Admiral Bobbery have set a precedent for what unique followers should look like even in the most basic of Mario's classic enemies. I mean, their designs are amazing, and every partner that Mario gets in both of these two games have amazing designs in my opinion. I genuinely don't get how Nintendo can just sit there, look at how wildly different Paper Mario is from every other IP that they have with Mario, and say, oh look at that, it's doing so well, but it should be more generic, that'll make it do even better. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me because most companies would try to embrace creativity. And as I mentioned earlier, I love Bobby from Origami King, but he's just a basic Bob-omb without a fuse. That's literally it. That's as close to a unique look that Nintendo would let Origami King get. It's so uninspired, especially when compared to Bombette and Bobbery. Having unique characters, even if they are some of the most generic characters in Mario, is what made people fall in love with this franchise early on. I know that personally for me as a kid, I loved them so much because I thought that Yoshi Kid was so cool and that Watt was as cute as a button. And given how limited the character designs are now is such a shame. And now I'm sure that the developers are trying extremely hard to make games that everyone will love, but it just isn't working in my opinion. And the worst part about it is it's not even the developer's fault. It's the fault of whoever made the decision that there can be no new characters made for these games. Now, I do appreciate them actually giving us a legitimate partner back in Origami King, even though it's just for a portion of the game at a time, but the fact that they have to shoehorn in a reason for us to not have have one for every single boss battle because of how easy all of them are is pretty disappointing, which is my next point. I don't get why they chose to make games like this so easy, which I guess is justified by saying the marketing is aimed at kids or whatever, but it doesn't really justify it at all if I'm being honest, because the boss fight mechanic makes absolutely no damn sense if the reasoning for these changes is to be more appealing to kids. Because for the very first boss fight, I, a 22-year-old, had trouble trying to figure out the pathing, let alone the whole puzzle mechanic in general. Granted, for the first boss fight, I wasn't paying any attention to Olivia if she did explain anything to me, but at the same time, neither would a child. And back to the marketing to the kids, I personally call bullshit, because brand recognition doesn't really mean much to kids if you aren't changing the design of Mario, which is the brand, because in my opinion, no kid will be able to tell the difference. I mean, just look at Pokemon. What keeps people coming back to Pokemon is partly because of how crazy the character designs are, not because they're always looking the same. And cutting unique characters based off of Koopas, Goombas, etc. was an awful call, because let's be honest, if I were to show you all of the characters that pop up in Origami King, Color Splash, or Sticker Star versus the characters that show up in Paper Mario 64 and Thousand Year Door, what are you going to choose based off of the character designs and what is obviously more eye-catching? Of course, it's going to be Paper Mario 64 and Thousand Year Door. And going from some of the craziest designs that have ever graced the face of the Mario franchise are now traded in for characters that have to be made from something that isn't in the Mario franchise whatsoever, which means that there's literally zero brand recognition involved in these games anyways. Like, if you show a kid the giant turtle thing that Olivia turns into, or even just Olivia herself, they won't know that that's a Mario character. But on the other hand, if you show them Cooper or Koops and then a run-of-the-mill Koopa Troopa, they will be able to make out the similarities between the two very quickly. Now, going to the future of this franchise, if you want my genuine opinion, remastering or remaking Paper Mario 64 or even Thousand Year Door is the best idea that they could possibly have, because both of those games are simplistic enough for any kid to understand them. The combat isn't extremely convoluted. You press A and A again, and A for a third time for the quick time event. Like, it really doesn't get any simpler than that. Color Splash was the perfect example of what not to do. You don't want combat against a weak enemy to take minutes. And even in Origami King, it was so convoluted for no reason in my opinion. Now obviously with Paper Mario 64 being ported to Nintendo Switch Online's expansion pass, I think that the more likely option to get remade or remastered is Thousand Year Door, but given how many people are still probably refusing to buy the expansion pass, I don't think anyone would be opposed to either one being remade. Honestly, I just wish that Miyamoto and Nintendo would let the dev teams be more creative with the character designs again, but honestly, given how well Origami King did sales-wise, unless they see how many people are playing the Nintendo 64 port, maybe this franchise just really is a lost cause, unfortunately, which is very upsetting in my opinion, because I honestly think that this franchise has so much potential. But with that being said, let me know what you think. Do you like the changes that they've made over the years, or do you miss the franchise's roots like myself? Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll catch you in the next one.